to the Leo Training Podcast with Joe DeLeo. You'll hear in-depth interviews and tips from world-class athletes, coaches, and industry-leading experts to help you train smarter and improve at what you love to do. Train smarter, get stronger, move better, race faster. Here's your host, Joe DeLeo.
Hi everyone, this is Joe DeLeo, and we are back with episode 17 of the Leo Training Podcast. This is the third and final installment of the mini-series I've done in honor of Mother's Day. Today's guest is Karen Smith. Karen is a master kettlebell instructor and the chief bodyweight instructor for Strong First. She's also an advisor to Girls Gone Strong and completed the Iron Maiden Challenge in 2012. It is Karen's desire to empower, motivate, and mentor others to reach their true potential, either in person or through online distance coaching and program design. Karen is a seasoned personal trainer and strength coach who travels the world instructing and certifying individuals of all ages and fitness levels, from beginners to elite U.S. military and law enforcement. In this episode, we discuss the Strong First curriculum with a focus on bodyweight. Karen explains how bodyweight training has not only increased her strength, but has provided her with the flexibility to train with an extensive travel schedule around the world, all while being a mother. This interview has great insight into how anyone, but especially mothers, can integrate the Strong First bodyweight curriculum into their busy lives to get stronger and be healthier with minimal time. Without further ado, let's roll to episode 17. Beyond Bodyweight with Karen Smith. Karen Smith, welcome to the Leo Training Podcast. Thank you for coming on to the show. I'm very excited to have you here. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be interviewed and looking forward to it.
Me too. So let's kick things off. Let's have you talk a little bit about your background for anybody that doesn't know you. You know, your work with Strong First and Girls Gone Strong, and your kind of your journey and entry point into the health and fitness industry.
Okay, awesome. Really, pretty much been active my whole life. As a kid, my mom joked about how it didn't matter where we were at. I was kind of flipping and tumbling somewhere. It didn't matter if it was a parking lot or a store or whatever. So I have a gymnastics background, but not on a competitive level, just more recreational. What did I need to be able to do for cheer? Because in Texas, cheer, gymnastics, all of those are kind of big things from a very young age. So that's really where I started. And then from there, I've just always had a love for fitness of some sort. So I've been pretty active most of my life. And probably about, maybe like 92, really kind of changed paths and obviously started trying to figure out, like, I'm out of school, like what am I going to do? And had a sales job, but just really hated the grind. I'm not a salesperson. I don't like to push things on people. But it was just kind of what I was doing. And a couple years later, just decided, you know what? I'm spending all my time in the gym when I'm not at work. I need to finally just go follow my passion and be in the fitness industry, and kind of got into training there. And that's really where it took off. So that was in about, 98, 99 is when I first got my first certification and started training.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So for those that don't know, you're also a master SFG with Strong First and the chief SFB for Strong First. And then I think this is right, advisor for Girls Gone Strong. That's correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I wanted to discuss is the curriculum of bodyweight training within Strong First, and sort of how the bodyweight skills fit into the entire system, as well as complement the kettlebell lifts and the barbell lifts.
Okay. Really with the bodyweight, it complements so well. And I kind of went that path because, there was really the opportunity. There were so many people in leadership that were able to teach the kettlebell, which I love. I mean, that's really what kind of took me back into training after I had my daughter was just falling in love with the kettlebell and the movements and how practical it is and efficient that it changed my training. It took me from 14 hours a week of training to about 3 hours a week. And so that's where I really dove in. But then as the bodyweight course insert came along, there just weren't as many people available to teach that. So I thought, what a perfect opportunity. I'll, kind of jump in the deep end here and leave some of the other opportunity for the kettlebell courses for, the massive amount of leadership that we had that could teach it. And it just kind of went from there. I mean, I have a love for it. It's really changed everything in my training. And I love sharing that with people. I mean, it's the time under tension that we spend on these strength skills, like the carryover is amazing. I'm training far less than I have really for years. And I'm being able to maintain strength and even PR in some areas in my kettlebell skills or my barbell skills when I'm not even training them.
Yeah, I love that. I've read several of your articles on strongfirst.com, and I love how you made a point to say that, a lot of the times you might be just doing one rep, like demonstrating at a course or a certification, and you're doing far less volume than you have in the past, yet you're stronger than you ever have been.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, most of my reps are singles or demos, either at a course or certification, or even when I'm home, I do a lot of that. If I have a busy work day that I need to be catching up when I'm home on paperwork and emails and programs, sometimes I just set the clock, and every hour I make myself do a rep of something. If it's, do a pull-up rep or a hanging leg raise or a one-arm push-up or any variation or progression of those, you don't even have to do the full rep or the full max, right? Like I don't have to train a one-arm push-up on the ground very often to be able to maintain that strength. I just pick an elevation, a box, a countertop, whatever, and the strength is there, and the training, like I said, is far less. But when I am home now, like the last couple of weeks, I've been testing some of the kettlebell skills and some barbell skills, and it amazes me at how much of the strength is just there, just from greasing the groove with the body weight.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So one of the other things that I wanted to touch on was you talked about, I saw some of your posts recently that I think you're matching or like beating your deadlift PR, and you haven't really touched a barbell, as you just said, in a long time. Just from doing the bodyweight skills, that the carryover is so strong. So could you talk a little bit more about that? Just the carryover to other lifts and the applicability of the bodyweight skills?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, I even had another one this week I'll tell you about. So one of my favorite skills that I think has the most carryover is the single leg deadlift. So if you do the single leg deadlift the way that it's taught in the bodyweight course, we teach it, obviously bodyweight, and slow. It's very slow and controlled so that you own your sticking point and you get better. So most of the time, if we have something that we don't like or we're not good at, we just don't do it, right? We kind of go in the direction of things that we enjoy and that we're good at versus what we're not. So with the single leg, it's slow and controlled. And it's another one of those skills that I just do demos all the time. So single reps of body weight has PR'd not only my single leg, but this week alone, someone wants me to do, kind of test a deadlift program. And I haven't really deadlifted, at least not on a heavy program, since probably about 2013. I went to the SFL and hit 2 times body weight deadlift. And then the next day I went to have a procedure done that I was waiting until after that cert to get a labral tear fixed in my hip. So that took me to basically no lower body weight for about 3 months. And I just really haven't loaded it heavy since. There just hasn't been a need. It was more regain mobility, have enough strength to just be able to do the things that I want to do, but not really max out. So this week alone, I decided to test my max deadlift. And my all-time max is 2 times body weight. So 3 years later, no heavy training, only single leg with body weight, and occasionally adding a weight to it. I hit 1.8 times body weight without training it. So to me, the carryover from what's going on with body weight, patterning the movements, doing quality singles So just think about how much more quality work you can do if everyone is like to a really high level. So the tension's there, time under tension, practicing and patterning the move, and to still be able to maintain something that high. And now I know I just need to, if I stick with a program, how I will pass my all-time max easy. And it's kind of exciting.
That is very exciting. That's incredible. Being able to, not really train or touch those lifts for such a long period of time and then come back and you're pretty much right exactly where you left off several years ago.
Right. I mean, the other great thing with the single leg, since you had asked about carryover, to other skills. So obviously bodyweight single leg deadlifts carry over to your barbell deadlifts. But think also it's building that balance and that stability on one leg. We also teach that in the kettlebell course, right? So we teach that to improve your Turkish get-up. So it's not just, let's think lunging and squatting and deadlifting, but a movement like a Turkish get-up that you really want to get solid on one leg, because think about how many people struggle in that big step back or stepping forward. They just don't have the strength there. And so if you really do a lot of work on one leg, it's going to have carryover to just really almost any skill. Very
cool. Now, are there other skills, like, for example, the one arm, one leg push up? I've read some articles on Strong First that carries over well to the military press. What about the handstands or handstand push-ups? Those types of lifts, or the hanging leg raise. What do you think some of the carryover is in a specific kettlebell or barbell lifts for those?
I think that obviously the handstand push-up and the one arm, one leg, is going to, in most cases, PR your military press. There's just these little intricacies that you have to do for a one arm, one leg, that if you pattern that correctly and then you try to mimic that in your military press, you're going to be stronger. So for example, when we do a one arm, or one arm, one leg push up, or just a one arm push up, we're going to side hinge a little bit, and it's shifting the weight to that one side, or loading that one side and stacking it really well. So you're not actually hinging at the hips like a lateral hinge like we would in a swing, but you're just shifting and stacking your weight. So the more I do that now when I'm pressing heavy, so I'll have a narrow stance, shift to the side, and really line up everything on the working side from the foot, the knee, the hip, all the way up to the shoulder. I've PR'd military press as well. So I think doing that, and then the handstand push-up obviously is huge because you're pressing your whole body once you're in a full handstand. But there are progressions that you can start and still get benefit without being in a full handstand. If it's something that someone's, really wanting to try, there's so many progressions and regressions that we teach.
Awesome. That's very cool. Very cool. So one of you mentioned briefly, greasing the groove. So for anybody that's listening, that's not familiar with that, could you kind of just give a brief overview of grease the groove, what that is, and sort of, the principles behind it, and what to do and then what to not to do to make sure that it's effective?
Absolutely. Greasing the groove is practicing throughout the day, or it can be practiced in different times of the day. For example, when I had my gym, I would be there mostly in the morning for a few hours, in the afternoon for a few hours. So I would pattern my grease the groove in between training sets. So while I'm training a student, while they're on their rest, I would do a rep or two. And so it can be done all day long. It can be done broken up in morning and afternoon segments. But the key is that you're staying fresh. So again, back to the quality reps. It's single reps, quality reps, and you're staying fresh. So your form is always there, and you don't take yourself to the fatigue level. So you're actually getting more volume in. Once you do that, it's really important that you don't try to grease the groove with more than 2 skills at a time. And this is something that I learned from Pavel years ago, is that if you really want to be successful at those skills, then you pick 2, and that's what you grease the groove. Now, it can also be done while you're doing other training skills. So if I have a training program that I'm doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, then I may grease the groove on Tuesday and Thursday, or maybe on the weekend. So it still can be successful even without doing it every day. So put a pull-up bar on a doorway. Every time you pass, you do a pull-up. Or every time you pass a certain height, the countertop, a box, a chair, whichever, do a one arm. So there's just so much that can be done with that. Once you succeed at it and you don't need to be greasing the groove with that, you can always move that skill into your program and do it as sets and reps, and then pull another skill into what you want to grease the groove. So it's basically lots of practice at what you want to get better at or stronger at, and done for quality.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you made about making sure, because when I first started off, as I was preparing for the SFB, it's really important to just pick two skills if you're going to grease the groove and just stick to two. And you touched on this about the fatigue, and this is kind of where I want to go next. Is it's very deceptive how fatiguing and how much neurological load is placed on the body from the body weight skills. And I didn't really appreciate it until I started, really training, 5 days a week with the body weight skills, and realized like my central nervous system was just fried, like at the beginning, because it was just adapting. It was a totally different stress that it hadn't been under before.
Absolutely. It is different stress. When you're first learning body weight, it's difficult for some people because they haven't trained in that fashion. And what we teach at the certification or the course is really teaching you to ramp up the tension to max and then master that. So as you become more proficient, you obviously don't have to go to max, right? You're able to wave the load, but it's a volume of tension, and being able to dial that up or dial that down, that's a professional. And in order to get that and understand mastering your body and your muscles and being able to change the wave of the load, because obviously you can't add weight to your body every day if you're doing body weight training like you can with a kettlebell and change it. But the fatigue is there. It fatigues you quickly. There's only so much neural drive. And there's some principles that we use that are really important. And one of those is feed forward tension, right? You want to be able to maximally tense your muscles without external load. So that's perfect with body weight. And I really love teaching people how to take their muscles under control. We also talk about dominata, and dominata is being able to maximally tense your muscles and still focus on the skill at hand. And that skill, for example, let's say we move on from body weight to kettlebells. A perfect example of dominata is when I was training for the Iron Maiden, my biggest struggle was the pull-up. And I would put kettlebells on my feet and have no problem doing the pull-up and getting over the bar, because the kettlebells on the feet forced my body to be tighter in a hollow position. So all I had to do was think about pulling. But when I took them off my feet and I put them on my waist, I had to think about getting tight and staying there and still getting over the bar. So it took some time to really repattern that, and I kind of tricked my system and increased the weight on the belt while I was decreasing the weight on my feet. So I had it on both until my body just knew how to get tight and stay tight, and then I could focus on that skill. So there's just a lot of things there with body weight that if you can really dive in and spend some time practicing that and mastering how much tension you need so that you don't spend all the neural drive that you have on that one rep and then you're done. But being able to master it and learn how much tension you need for a given skill. And I guess the next part is really thinking, like, break it up into progressions. I tell everyone, when you come to the body weight, you have to leave your ego at the door, right? We're not going to go straight to the max of, we're going to go straight to a one arm. I might start you at the wall. And people look at that and go, there's no way. Why am I going to be doing push-ups on the wall? But what it's going to do is it's going to set in the right pattern. It's going to keep you from shrugging. It's going to keep your lat engaged. It's going to teach you the right shift of the hips. So basically you're patterning every step so that when you go to the max, you don't have to fry your nervous system by holding everything so tight that you can't think of anything else. Does that make sense?
Oh, that totally makes sense. I love that. And, I can, as somebody that's a week away from attending the SFB, That's so true. And if anybody's gonna go to a user course or prepare for the SFB, that would be one thing I would say is spend a lot of time on the regressions or progressions, and you don't need to test the lift that often. Spend more time doing whatever regression works for you, whether it's on a slider or a planche or an incline or against the wall. Because I found that you're staying fresher when you try the lift. You really use up a lot of neural drive, like you said.
Absolutely.
It's so taxing, and you can't fully appreciate it, I think, until you start training it, and you're just like, as several people have said this. You said it. Jen Meehan said it to me. Like, you get done and you feel like you've got the flu. Like you're sick. Like that's how fatiguing it is on the body.
Right. And you know what, just so we don't scare people away from body weight by saying that, when we say that you feel like you have the flu, that is not every time you train body weight. That is, you dive into this certification, and especially if you haven't spent much time with that type of tension, it's more of like you're doing 2 days full of like 8 hours of tension. So that's where people go away from that going, man, I feel achy and I feel like I have the flu, or I feel like I am feeling muscles that I've never felt before. So that's not an all the time thing. So don't freak out when you hear that. It may just be that one time. And then as you start to master what's going on in your body and you adjust that volume, then the fatigue level will be different. So you won't always be achy. You will be able to stay pretty fresh. But after that weekend, I have heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great point. It's the cumulative load across the 2 days of the certification.
Right. And actually, like you had mentioned, and I think we talked about this when we did our FaceTime session, is why do we not do, really high volume? And that's exactly why. Because the cumulative fatigue builds up, which is what's happening the cert weekend, and you don't want to do that all the time in your training. So the volume will be less. And I tell people most of the time, you'll be surprised at how little volume you actually have to do when you're doing it to quality. So think about doing, we always say, or you hear people say all the time, perfect practice makes perfect, or perfect. It is so true. Like when you can dial it in and you're doing quality work, like you just need far less. And it's amazing, like how strong you can stay without having to do a lot of volume.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of like a secret. And then once you figure it out, you're like, well, wait, it's kind of this easy. Like I not that it's easy, but you realize if you listen to your body and you put quality at the forefront, you're going to get tenfold back.
Absolutely. And you know what I tell people that all the time, especially at the cert or the course, is that listening to your body is a skill just like anything else. I mean, we can ignore it all day long, but when you really listen to what it's telling you, it's amazing what can happen. And there's a quote that I really liked. I was doing the bodyweight cert, or teaching the bodyweight cert in South Africa with another master instructor, Sean Cairns. And he had a comment that really stood out to me. He said, when you're training with bodyweight, like think about, you're not going to pick a progression that's whispering to you, because that's going to be too easy. But you also don't want to pick a progression that's screaming at you, because you're going to fatigue too fast. So you need to pick that progression right in the middle that just speaks to you. It's a little bit challenging. It's going to push you a little bit, but it's not screaming at you and going, okay, this is going to injure me, or hey, this is too easy. I'm not getting anything from this. And there's so many progressions that it makes it easy to pick, and it makes it easy to wave the load. We work negatives. Slow negatives. We work elevation, and it's just really neat. And I'm hoping that more and more people will kind of jump in and try the courses and the certifications. I think it's a challenge, because we like lifting heavy things. We want to lift the iron, and that seems cooler to most people. But when they finally come and attend the course or certification, they're like, why didn't I do this sooner? There's so much great content here that will only help the kettlebell skills or the barbell skills. And I think when they see that, they get really excited, but it's just getting the people there, because most of the time people are like, body weight, whatever. I can do pull-ups or I can do a push-up or, what is it? Jumping jacks and agility work. But this is true body weight strength. And, I'm really enjoying kind of leading this division and getting more and more people on my team to help teach and grow the courses and certs, because it's such great material that Pavel's pulled into this manual. And I think it's just great for anyone and everyone.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I love it. It's so rewarding. I mean, all the disciplines across Strong First are great, but the body weight, I think you said this to me when we did our coaching session, but it requires so much internal knowledge and control of your own body. And it's that level of, mastery. Like you have to be able to dial it up or dial it down, and knowing how to do that sort of on call at any time is a skill in of itself.
Absolutely. And you know what? Here's another thing I really like about the body weight. So I'm greasing the groove. I'm doing demos, but when I'm home and I do pick up the bells, I've heard people in the past that are like, oh, I have my recert coming up. I need to really get on a program and get my strength level back to be able to pass all the tests. Well, the great thing is with body weight that I've found is I don't need to be on a program. Like I am able to maintain my level 1 and my level 2 skills without training them, because of the body weight tension. Now, of course, if I'm going to do a snatch test, I may add a couple weeks of training in for that, just because I'm the 1 rep max girl. I don't do a lot of conditioning, and, people joke about, me saying like, if you find me on a trail, like know someone drug me there, because I'm not a runner. So there's no reason for me. Like, I just don't do the cardio, but give me a hard progression of a 1 arm or something like that, and it's going to get my heart rate up. It's like running a sprint versus a marathon. But the skill level, you can maintain it. So you increase that baseline of strength, and then everything else is easier to maintain.
Yeah, I love that. Increasing the baseline of strength. That's awesome. That's really cool. So I guess the other thing to kind of point out with what you just said too, so that people that aren't familiar with you have context, you're traveling quite a bit and teaching. So the body weight in terms of not only maintaining and expanding your strength is very convenient due to your schedule as well.
Absolutely. And my schedule, my main job is teaching our courses and our certs. So 2 to 3 weekends, pretty much every month, I'm somewhere, another country, or just another state. And so there's a lot of time on the air. There's a lot of time, where I just really can't be on a program right now. It just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So it is practice and just pattern movements and demos, but it's amazing how it's, traveling can, take a toll on your body, but the way that I'm able to just keep up the skills is what I've really enjoyed with body weight. And it keeps me strong while I'm on the road. I can rush home. If I'm home for 3 days, it's like unpack, repack, but I can grab the kettlebells in the garage and do something else, just to have some other movements. But, the main thing is just grease the groove and demo.
Awesome. Very cool. So before we shift gears, is there anything else that you want to kind of wrap up with on the body weight side of things?
I would say, the biggest thing is to let everyone know, like, don't be intimidated by it. You do not have to come to the certification and pass a 1 arm or a 1 arm, 1 leg that weekend. And that's the great thing about this cert is you get to come in. You can come in without a lot of knowledge of what we're doing. Take it in that weekend, practice it, pattern it, learn how to program it, and you have 6 months to be able to own it and then send in a video. So I think that's one great thing is that it really is a certification that anyone can come to. Like it doesn't matter your fitness level. It doesn't matter your age. There's a starting point for everyone. And you don't have to have all these other certifications first. Like there isn't a requirement for that. You come, you take it in, you practice it, and get stronger.
Excellent. Awesome. So we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk a little bit about, you're one of the master instructors for Strong First. You travel extensively across the country, across the world, but you're also a mother, right? So you have a young daughter, and so one, how do you balance all that? Because that's kind of a skill in of itself, with the travel and everything. And then, I think that'd be very valuable information for, anybody out there to know is, balancing being a mother and training and coaching. And how do you do it?
You know what? It definitely can be a challenge. While I love what I do and I love the travel and definitely won't give that up, I do miss times with my daughter, but, unfortunately, part of being divorced is you have to have weekends that you don't have your child. So that's really kind of what made me dive into the travel originally, was that I was home without her, and why not do what I love, right? So that's where my travel started. Now sometimes it gets kind of drug into the weekends that I should be with her. So we try to just make the time that we have, the most quality time that we can. We do a lot of stuff together. And that's the other thing that's great with this type of training is that I can spend my time with her and not have to be focused on, oh my gosh, I'm missing a workout, right? Because I can practice whenever. We go to the trampoline gym. I'm doing movement. We go to the park. We kind of goof around. And then I'm around for her cheer. So I'm home during the week when I can spend time with her and go to her events and, chaperone, field trips and stuff like that. I'm always where I can do that for her. And then my trips are mostly the weekend. And I don't spend a lot of time where I go. I mean, while a lot of people are like, oh, it'd be so cool to travel the world. While that is a part of that's true. But you go and you do what you have to do. Mm-hmm. So most of the places I go, unless I'm going out of the country, it's fly in, I see the hotel, I see maybe a restaurant or two, I see the facility I'm teaching at, and then I'm right back to the airport. And sometimes that's 24 hours. Or maybe a little more than 24. But if I get done with a course and there's a flight, within a couple of hours of that, then I'm right back home because I don't want to miss out on anything else than I have to, with her, because being a mom is my first priority. And second is doing what I love. And I'm honored that I even have the opportunity to do what I love on a regular basis and travel around and meet so many great people, and just share my passion.
That's awesome. And so do you want to, your daughter's training, preparing for the cheer right now, right? Cheer championships and everything.
She is.
Yeah. So did you want to talk a little bit about that or?
Sure, if you want. She's a competitive cheerleader, which is super exciting for me because she's kind of following in my footsteps, except, totally passing up my abilities. I mean, she's so talented and has far exceeded what I could do as a kid. So it's really neat to see her more on the competitive side, which is, you get excited about what your kid can do. And the downside right now is she did just, get injured. So we're trying to rehab her, like fast track rehab, because she has a competition at Disneyland, actually a week from today. So we're just, seeing what we can do and helping her rehab smart, and that's it. But it's very exciting, and I can't wait to see if she actually, is able to do the comp, or if either way she's going and she's going to support her team and be there for them. And unfortunately for me, I'm going to be teaching a bodyweight certification in Chicago the same weekend, so I will be trying to dial in and watch live if it works in the schedule and support her from afar. But it's an exciting thing.
Well, we'll be pulling for her, and we'll be sending some prayers and positive vibes her way for sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So is she, do you find that she, because, the courses and the certifications that you teach, does she say, hey mom, can you teach me, this? Does she show an interest or express an interest in some of the body weight skills?
You know what? She does a little bit. She's like any kid though, right? I mean, most kids, especially when they start hitting the preteen years, your parents aren't the coolest. So while she likes some of it, and sometimes she wants to work out and do stuff with me. And you know what? To brag on her a little bit, I mean, she is really skilled in her kettlebells. She's been doing them since she was 3. And,
Wow.
she's seen me, in the gym. She was there with me when I had the gym, like, daily growing up. And so she has good form. She can look at people doing kettlebells or body weight, and she knows what they're doing wrong. If the technique's wrong, and she'll be like, "Hey mom, did you see that? Or did you see this?" And so she wants to help, right? She wants to be able to correct a little bit, but I have to rein her back when we were in the gym and be like, it's awesome that you know that, but as a kid, you can only say so much or it sounds disrespectful. But when you hear it every day from the age 3 on, like you pick it up. And, at one point she was like, I want to get certified. I want to be the youngest certified, instructor. And so now she's more into her things, and she's 12 now. So, while she likes some of it, it's not something she wants to do with me all the time, but sometimes.
That's cool. That's awesome. It sounds like she's quite the athlete, and she's really developing the eye for movement.
Yeah, she's very talented with that. I know I'm biased, but she's got skills.
That's awesome. Very cool. So do you have any, I guess like condensed or concise advice for like other moms out there in terms of applying the body weight? Like you mentioned that it's very convenient in terms of, scheduling and time of day that you can get it in. But anything else that comes to mind kind of that a parent might want to know, benefits of body weight?
You know what? It really is body weight, kettlebells, really anything that you're doing. Just know that you don't have to beat yourself into the ground. It can be done in small increments. So if you have 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening around what your kids are doing, take that time, because it all adds up when it's quality. So for me, perfect example, because my daughter has cheer and normally practices are 2 to 3 hours, my goal most of the time is to try to get something in while I'm there. I can go outside. I can do some sort of skill in the parking lot. I don't just have to sit there and watch for 2 hours, 3 hours straight. It's like, do something. And there is time. We have to make time. It has to be something that's important to you, a priority, but it doesn't have to just be body weight. It can be kettlebells. It can be walking lunges. It can be really anything. And there's so many resources. I guess there's that too. If you go to the Strong First blog, there's articles there they're going to give you a lot of content. Another great resource, like you mentioned, I'm on the advisory board for Girls Gone Strong, and there's so much content there. And it's not just fitness. I mean, it's hormones, it's nutrition, it's mindset. And that's really one of the things that I love for moms, or really just for any female, is to have this place to go where you're getting quality information. And we're about positive body image and not tearing people down and being there for each other. So if you can find a support system as a mom, because we all know, especially with little kids, there's so much stress just being a parent that sometimes we're just tired by the end of the day. But if you can find these outlets and like-minded people that you can share your time with, even if it's brief, and take that time, you can build a body that you're happy with, but it's something that you have to be happy with. I guess I should say, right? You have to get in a mindset that it really doesn't matter what someone else thinks of you, your body, your strength, whatever you're doing, but get into a place and love what you're doing for you, whatever that is, whatever that passion is, or skill that you want, then just go for it and just kind of speak positive, I guess. And I know that's kind of rambling there, but there's so much. The mind is such a powerful thing that we need to speak positive in a lot of ways, right? Like it's positive visualization of skills. It's visualization of what you want to see in your future. So that, I guess that's the biggest thing, is find something that you are passionate about and then be positive, because negativity can just bring you down in so many ways.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful message for everybody to take home, is the mindset and thinking positive. That's huge. Very, very important. Very important, especially on the day-to-day stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Staying steady. So I'll be sure to definitely include the, links to your website and Strong First and Girls Gone Strong. And then if there's any, particular events that you want me to put into the show notes, I'll do that as well. And then the last thing is just the kind of the thing to wrap it all up is I do a series of rapid fire questions I ask each guest. These are all fun, like nothing to do with the topic, just kind of, fun questions.
Okay. Well, hopefully I'll be good. Put me on the spot here.
No, you'll do great. You'll do great. Okay. So given, your current knowledge level and experiences, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself 10 years ago?
Oh my gosh. 10 years ago would be definitely grease the groove. I mean, I know that sounds so simple, but I used to spend 14 hours a week in the gym just wasting time, not getting leaner, not getting stronger, doing stupid stuff that I thought would get me somewhere, and it didn't.
I like that. So pick a skill, practice it, and own it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So necessarily, I guess the big take home here is you don't have to put in tons of time to get a big reward or a benefit out of it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So if you had to pick one, what's your favorite strength training exercise?
Right now it would definitely be the one arm push-ups. And right now my goal is to get to the one arm, one leg. So
awesome.
That's where I'm headed.
Very cool. Very cool. How has your training changed today compared to 10 years ago?
Like I said, it's just more of the quality of what I'm doing, and the volume of what I'm doing is way less. There's no more, get on a treadmill and walk or run for an hour thinking that's going to get me where I want to be, because it didn't get my body where I wanted it. Strength training did. So lifting heavy and quality. Can't stress that enough.
Awesome. So this isn't a question that I had down, but since you just kind of mentioned that, I think this is kind of important. So could you just kind of touch upon, I think it'd be important for the audience to hear from you, especially. Well, there's a kind of a misnomer that if you strength train, you're going to get bulky, or you're going to put on a lot of muscle. And, I have clients, and I'm sure we all have clients or students, that they want to be lean and cut and tone, but they don't want to put on lots of mass. And could you could you quickly just explain why that will not happen if we, strength train?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so funny that you asked that, because that was me for so long. Even as a trainer in my early years, I was so afraid of getting bulky, and, but I was bulkier, right? I wasn't as lean. So without being lean, you're going to look bulkier. Now, obviously getting lean comes in a couple areas. One is building muscle and strength training, and the other is in the kitchen. What do you put in your mouth? So I kind of joke with people when I'm training them, is like, one, you're not going to get bulky. We don't have enough testosterone for that. The girls that are really bulky, there's other reasons for that. Okay. You're not going to get that just by lifting heavy. And I remember when the first time I ever trained with someone who did kettlebells, that's what I told him. Please don't make me bulky. I don't want to get any bigger. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're in this gym. You live here. Like, he knew that I was on cardio equipment hours and hours every week. And he said, I want to see you in here 3 times a week, and you will not do anything else on your other days. You're going to lift the weights that I tell you to weight, that I tell you to lift, and I don't want you doing anything else. And in 5 weeks, I lost 3.5 inches off my waist and 5% my body fat in 5 weeks of lifting heavy. So I was sold. And then he was like, hey, you got to go to this kettlebell cert with me. You picked this up so fast. Let's do this. And I didn't even know what a kettlebell cert was. I didn't know who Pavel was. I was like, oh, it sounds fun. I'll go. And then it was like the heavens opened, and I was like, oh my God, I found where I'm supposed to be. And then I just haven't looked back.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Very, very
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that, because I hope people listen to that and that resonates with them, because sometimes it's just important to hear the explanation from somebody else.
And you know what? Here's the other thing with that. If we have a second to go back to that, people that start lifting heavy and feel like they're getting bigger, most of the time they haven't changed their diet. So yes, they're building muscle, but they're building muscle under a fat layer that they haven't gotten rid of. So that bulky is not because of the muscle. Muscle is more dense, and they just need to clean up their diet. And then they'll see that they weren't getting bulky. It was like the muscles were, pushing the fat that they haven't gotten rid of yet out to make them look bulky. So clean up your diet and lift heavy weights, and most often you're going to see the body that you want.
Awesome. Thank you. Have you ever had, you mentioned this before, have you ever had an injury? And if so, how did that change or affect your training?
Oh gosh. We might need a couple hours for this. Well, as someone who has been active my whole life, I've had a lot of injuries. Most of them were probably not from something super smart. I mean, like just sometimes even as a coach, no matter how skilled you are, we get obsessed with something, right? Or we sidetracked. We get out of it kind of becomes the do what I say, not what I do mentality. So one example is I had a labral tear in my hip. I'm not sure how or why I got it. It wasn't like a set, like training injury, but it was there. So while that was healing and fixed after I had the PRP injections, I got into this mindset of, oh my gosh, I can't lose my strength. I've worked so hard for this. Like I don't want it to. So I got obsessed with pull-ups, which was great in the beginning. And then I got so obsessed that I put myself into an overtraining state, and then I injured my elbows. So sometimes we have to remember that, okay, just as we start to get obsessed, like kind of dial it back. We're not going to lose as much strength as we think we're going to lose. But what it did teach me, since you asked what did my injuries teach me and how did it change my training, when you have to rehab yourself or go through physical therapy, you learn a lot about those types of injuries. So since then, there's a lot of stuff that I can help my students rehab. Now, obviously, I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm going to listen to what their doctor says. But there are people that come to me when they're done with their physical therapy that I can help speed up the process, because I've dealt with a lot of hips. I've dealt with a lot of IT bands, shoulders, definitely shoulder rehab after surgeries, and elbows. So one perfect example of that is because I was able to know what can fast track shoulders. I had a gentleman recently that came to me right after his his rotator cuff surgery. And he's like, I want to go, I think this was in June or July. And he's like, I want to do the SFG level 1 in January. And he was good. I mean, he was one of the really perfect students. He took everything that I told him, and he would do his homework. He saw me once a week, and we started in July with pretty much zero ability to go overhead with any weight, and did the rehab, added some kettlebells, and by January, he passed all of his SFG skills and was able to do a snatch test.
Wow.
So what is that, like 6 months maybe from surgery to passing a cert?
That's incredible.
What it's taught me is that there's some rehab stuff that I can just carry their rehab on and get their strength back quicker.
Awesome. Very, very cool. That I would say he was very, very fortunate to have a very good teacher.
Well, it was, I mean, you have to give him credit, because, he did his homework, and he was a good student. He didn't get sidetracked. He didn't think that he had to fast track it. He took what we did in that session and he followed it, and he wanted it. So that's the other thing, is like, if you can put the blinders on in your training and stay focused on a program and not veer off at every shiny new program that comes around, you're going to see results a lot faster.
Awesome. What's one piece of advice that you would give to junior or high school level athletes that they should be doing more of to complement their training and their health?
Oh gosh, get off technology. No, I mean, really, the reason I say that is if you look at most of that age group, I mean, my daughter being one of them, if they're not careful and they're spending so much time on social media and so much time hunched over, that all they're doing is they're tightening their pecs, they're tightening their T-spine, they're losing movement that's going to affect them later in life. And not that we at this age didn't do that as well, but it's so much more with social media, right? There's not as much playing outside. There's so much more sitting and texting and typing. And so I would say that's probably the biggest thing, is if we could get them back into just movement and having fun of being outside and natural movement, they would have less problems.
Awesome. What is your number one tip to improve recovery from a training session?
Oh, wow. Number one tip. Rest. I mean, I think most of the time it's not necessarily overtraining, but it's under recovery. You know, I kind of joked yesterday. Someone asked, well, what do you do? It was on Facebook. Someone said, well, what do you do on your deload week? Do you just decrease the volume, decrease the weights? And I was like, rest. I mean, really when I mean rest, don't pick up a weight for a day or two. It's okay. You're not going to lose your strength because you take a day or two off. So rest is important.
Timing wise, absolutely. I'm in my deload week right now as I get ready to go into the SFB next weekend. And the beginning of this week, I was fried. I was exhausted at the end of my third week, and I've done a couple light days, but I've just taken more full days of complete rest off and made sure my priority, especially this week and next week, has been quality meals and sleep, lots and lots of sleep.
Absolutely. I mean, that really is the best thing. I'm so excited that you're going. I can't wait to hear how you feel about the certification. And, you're in great hands, obviously, with Phil. And, but I look forward to hearing about how your weekend goes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Final question. What's one book everyone should read?
Oh gosh. That's a good question. You know what? I'm going to be completely honest. I have been so busy that I can't even tell you the last time I sat down and just read just for leisure. I mean, or even just learning. So there you go. You stumped me. I knew you were going to stump me on at least one. There's so many great books out there, but I can't, on your rapid fire, you've stumped me because I can't even think right now of any titles, just because I don't think I've sat still long enough. That's awful.
You could just say the SFB manual. That's it.
SFB manual. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Karen, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, taking the time to share your expertise and knowledge, with the health and fitness community and my audience. And I hope people, really put your advice to use and it benefits them. And, I'll be airing this episode over Mother's Day. So happy early Mother's Day to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was an honor to be here. And hopefully, like you said, people will try some stuff out. And I always love hearing feedback. So message me if someone's trying something that we put here. Message me, find me on social media, whatever. I love to hear how this bodyweight stuff's working for people.
Awesome. Me too. I will. Just hang on the line. Let me give you a proper goodbye and we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in and listening to this episode on the Leo Training Podcast. If you enjoy the content, please head on over to iTunes and drop a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate it. And be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode where I interview Australian rowing Olympian Sam Locke.
Thanks for listening to the Leo Training Podcast. Subscribe and get even more expert training tips at www.leotraining.io.